Good morning, students. Today we take up Unit 5, Part 4 of Surface Chemistry. First topic we are going to take here is adsorption from the solution phase. Now, here we have to go through some examples where solids can adsorb solutes from solutions. First example is adsorption of acetic acid and blue litmus by charcoal from their solutions. Second is precipitate of magnesium hydroxide attaining a blue color when precipitated in presence of magnesium reagent. After these examples, we move on to the factors on which adsorption depends. Adsorption depends upon temperature with the inverse relation. It means if temperature is more, adsorption will be less. Second, these two, adsorption and surface area of adsorbent, have a direct relationship. It means if surface area of adsorbent is more, adsorption will be more. Third, if concentration of solute is more, adsorption will have a direct relationship with it. It means it will increase. And last, adsorption depends upon the nature of adsorbate and adsorbent. Next, applications of adsorption. First is production of high vacuum. The remaining traces of air in a vessel can be adsorbed by charcoal to give very high degree of vacuum. In gas masks which are used in mines, the adsorption of poisonous gases takes place by the activated charcoal present in the mask. Controlling of humidity, adsorbents like silica gel and alumina gel help in controlling the humidity. Removing of coloring matter from solutions. Animal charcoal removes colors of solutions by adsorbing the colored impurities. This we have already seen. Then heterogeneous catalysis. This is a type of catalysis in which reactants and catalysts are in different states. Now in heterogeneous catalysis, adsorption of reactants on the solid surface of the catalyst increases the rate of reaction. Separation of inert gases. Difference in degree of adsorption of gases by charcoal helps in separation of noble gases by adsorption of on coconut charcoal at different temperatures. Actually here when we are separating the inert gases, we have to remember that difference in degree of adsorption of gases by charcoal helps to do so. Then in curing diseases, many drugs can kill germs by getting adsorbed on them. Then in froth flotation process in metallurgy, the ore particles gets adsorbed to the froth. Ninth, in adsorption indicators, surfaces of certain precipitates such as silver halides have a property of adsorbing some dyes like eosin etc., thereby producing a characteristic color at the end point. In analytical and industrial fields, chromatographic techniques based on adsorption find applications. Now we move on to the next slide. Here we have catalysis. Now you all know that what are catalysts? Catalysts are substances that accelerate the rate of a reaction. Accelerate means increasing the rate of reaction, and they themselves chemically and quantitatively remain unchanged after the reaction. Means catalyst remains unchanged after the reaction, but it helps in increasing the rate of chemical reaction. Next, related with catalysis, we have two terms, promoters and poisons. Promoters of course enhance the activity of a catalyst and poisons decrease the activity of a catalyst. And one example we can take up in Haber's process for manufacture of ammonia, molybdenum acts as a promoter whereas H2S acts as a poison. The meaning is clear, I hope. Now types of catalysis, we have two types of catalysis. First is homogeneous catalysis. You can see here the reactants and the catalyst are in the same state. And in the next example, you can see the catalyst and the reactants are in different states. So, homogeneous catalysis is a process in which reactants and catalysts are in the same phase. And heterogeneous catalysis is a process in which reactants and catalysts are in different phases. Now we move on to adsorption theory of heterogeneous catalysis. There is a trick to remember this theory. You remember D, then the word aid, and then again a D. The first D stands for diffusion, second, the last D stands for diffusion, and the middle three words stands for adsorption, intermediate, and desorption. In this adsorption theory, it says that first of all, diffusion of reactants to the surface of catalyst occurs, and these catalysts have active sites. Second step is adsorption of reactants on the surface of the catalyst. Third is formation of intermediate, which is unstable. Fourth, desorption of product molecule from the catalyst surface. And fifth is diffusion of product molecule away from the catalyst surface. So now we can see the picture here. See here, the first is adsorption of reacting molecules. So reacting molecules are getting adsorbed on the catalyst surface. Then after adsorption, this adsorption has taken place, we get an intermediate, and from the intermediate we have desorption of the product molecules and then diffusion. Hope the picture is clear. Now we move on to the next topic. Before we move to the next topic, here we have one more picture of heterogeneous catalysis, adsorbed reactants, intermediate, product. And here we have one more picture. At molecular level you can see the catalyst surface, reactants and products. Now important features of solid catalyst. There are three important features we should know. First is activity, second specificity, and third is selectivity. First we take up activity. It is very simple to understand. It is actually the capacity of catalyst to increase the speed of reaction. So when we describe capacity of catalyst to increase the speed of reaction, it is called as activity. And specificity means one catalyst cannot catalyze all the reactions, means it is specific to a particular reaction. Like example, we can take iron as a catalyst for Haber's process, but it cannot catalyze all the other reactions. Next, selectivity. Now if you look at these three equations, you see the reactants are same in all the three cases. Reactants are same in all the three cases, but catalysts are different. So if we change the catalyst, you look at the products obtained, the product also changes. So selectivity is the ability of catalyst to direct a reaction to yield a particular product selectively. So the three properties of catalysis is over: activity, specificity and selectivity. Now we move on to the next. Here there are some points which you should note down. The activity of catalyst depends upon the strength of chemisorption, and remember that the adsorption of reactants should not be so stronger that they get immobilized and other reactants are left with no space on the catalyst surface. This should not happen. Then during hydrogenation reaction, there is an observation that catalytic activity increases from group 5 to group 11 metals, and maximum activity is shown by group 7 to 9 elements in the periodic table. Now we move on to the next slide. We start with shape selective catalysis. Now there is a principle behind the shape selective catalysis, that these catalytic reactions actually depend upon the pore structure of the catalyst and also on the size of the reactant as well as the product molecule. This is the principle actually. Now example of shape selective catalysis is zeolites. Now what are zeolites? They are good shape selective catalysis which are three-dimensional aluminosilicates represented by the formula Mx by N AlO2 whole X SiO2 whole Y dot X H2O. Here N is a charge on the metal cation Mn plus, and here M stands for either sodium ion, potassium ion or calcium ion, any one of these, and Z is water molecules of hydration. Now here we have a short note on zeolites. What are zeolites actually? They are microporous three-dimensional silicates. They are actually silicates, but in those silicates the silicon atom is replaced by aluminium and we get a ALOSI framework. They have a honeycomb like structure and they can be found in nature, and they can be artificially synthesized. On heating they lose the water of hydration and become porous. On those molecules can be adsorbed, only those molecules can be adsorbed in the pores whose size is enough. Actually what happens here is, because this is a shape selective catalysis, you have to remember that in the pores only those molecules can be adsorbed which are having size enough to enter these cavities and also leave the pores. If that does not happen, means if this condition is not met with, then this catalysis cannot occur. So you have to remember that the pore size should match with the molecules which are entering the cavity and leaving the cavity, and they are selective in nature. And selective, you know the meaning of selective, and one of the example is ZSM5, that is zeolite sieve of molecular porosity 5. Z zeolite, S sieve, M for molecular porosity, and 5 is the dimensions of the pore, and it is used to convert alcohol directly into gasoline by dehydrating. Here you have the picture of zeolites. Here you can see the pore structure and the substance entering and leaving the pores. Now we have enzyme catalysis. Now you all know enzymes are biochemical catalysis because they catalyze the life processes going on in living organisms. Enzymes are complex nitrogenous organic compounds which are produced by plants and animals. They are actually protein molecules of high molecular mass. And usually the name of enzyme ends with the word ASE, like you can see invertase enzyme. ASE is the last three words. It helps in inversion of cane sugar. A few more examples you will get in the NCERT textbook. First is inversion of cane sugar. Enzyme is invertase enzyme. Conversion of glucose into ethyl alcohol by zymase enzyme. Conversion of starch into maltose by diastase enzyme. Decomposition of urea into ammonia and carbon dioxide by urease enzyme. Conversion of maltose into glucose by maltase enzyme. Now you have to know that in the stomach, pepsin enzyme converts proteins into peptides, and in the intestine, pancreatic trypsin converts protein into amino acids by hydrolysis. Now, in an enzymatic reaction brought about by lactobacilli enzyme, milk gets converted into curd. Here we have the summary of the enzymatic reactions. Like invertase, we have already seen it converts sucrose into glucose and fructose. Zymase converts glucose into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. Diastase converts starch into maltose. Maltase converts maltose into glucose. Urease converts urea into ammonia and carbon dioxide. Pepsin converts proteins into amino acids. Now characteristics of enzyme catalysis. Now there are very few characteristics which you have to note down about enzymes. First is that it is very highly efficient, and you will be amazed to know that one molecule of enzyme can act upon 1 million molecules of reactant in a minute, and it is highly specific in nature. It means that one enzyme cannot catalyze more than one reaction. It is specific in nature. Then they are highly active under optimum temperature. Now what do you mean by optimum temperature? Optimum temperature is a definite temperature at which rate of enzyme activity is maximum, and on either side of the optimum temperature the enzyme activity decreases. It means if the temperature is high or low than the optimum temperature, then the enzymatic activity will not be normal. Like human body is having the optimum temperature as 37 degrees Celsius for all the enzyme catalyzed reactions. Above and below this temperature, the human body is not comfortable. Now, highly active under optimum pH. Like optimum temperature, we have optimum pH and the values are from 5 to 7, and under this pH the activity of enzyme is very high. Then there are substances known as coenzyme and activators which increase the activity of an enzyme. Now we will take a quick look at what are coenzymes and what are activators. The small non-protein parts which are usually proteins and present along with enzymes and increase the activity of enzymes are known as coenzymes. Example, NAD, which contains vitamin B3. Then we have activators. These are metal ions when weakly bonded to enzyme molecules increase their catalytic activity. Example, amylase in presence of sodium chloride, that is sodium ions, which makes it catalytically very active. Then influence of inhibitors and poisons. Now the best example is that many drugs inhibit the enzyme activity in our body. They are acting as actually the poisonous substances, or they poison the activity of enzyme. Now we have mechanism of enzyme catalysis, and you have to note down that this mechanism is given a special name, the lock and key mechanism. Now you look at the enzyme has active sites, and this is the substrate on which the enzyme is acting upon, and you can see the shape of the substrate and the active site. They are fitting, they are having an exact fit like a lock and key. You cannot open the lock with any key. You should have a special shape of the key which fits into the lock. Now there are number of cavities present on the surface of an enzyme. You can see here, these are called as active sites, and these active sites are actually groups such as NH2, OH, COOH, etc. Now what happens is that when this enzyme and the substrate get fit perfectly, we get an enzyme substrate complex, and later on the enzyme acts upon the substrate and breaks into product molecules. This is actually the mechanism. Now we move on to the two steps which take place in enzyme mechanism of enzyme catalysis. First is binding of enzyme to the substrate. You can see here binding takes place. Second one is enzyme substrate complex is formed, and the last is decomposition of the activated complex. You can see this is the activated complex. It decomposes to give the products and the original enzyme back. So here we end with mechanism of enzyme catalysis, and we have taken up the lock and key mechanism.